On April 8th of 2024, a total solar eclipse moved across North America, passed over Mexico, the United States, and Canada. A total solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun, and it completely blocks out the face of the sun to the view of the Earth. The sky basically darkened as if it was dusk or dawn. We had heard an array of things was going to take place during this event, and possibly even the end of the world. So this week, the Jackalopes Explore what did happen during the eclipse, because it might surprise you.
This episode of Jackalopes Explore is brought to you by Sheridan Stationery Books and Gifts, located at 535 North Main Street in Sheridan. Stop by today to peruse books, stationery, gifts, sports cards, and more. Or visit us at SheridanStationeryBooks.com.
I'm Floyd Whiting.
And I'm Aaron Linden.
And with no one to my right, I'm Steve Sisson.
Emmy's out this week. She had some other obligations that she had to fulfill. And one thing that I want to start this off with is worst apocalypse ever.
Right? Boo.
Boo. What the hell happened? Why? I thought the end of the world was a-coming. Everyone was for sure it was going to happen.
You know what, though? Congratulations to everybody. You made it through.
Yet another apocalypse.
You've made it now, like through, well, most of you probably, Y2K, 2012. COVID, the apocalyptic third eclipse.
Yeah.
We're still here, man. We're tough.
Very resilient civilization.
Or are we just the ones left behind after the rapture?
See, we never know.
Yeah.
What is it, 144,000, and that's it?
Yeah, maybe.
Isn't that the number? I'm not totally sure.
They just kind of disappeared, and we didn't even realize they were here in the first place.
Maybe that was the whole idea. You just select the obscure individuals that no one would miss.
It's like a micro purge.
But there were some events that actually did take place that we've seen due to, people that we follow on social media and some news sources. And some of these things were fairly odd. Some can be explained away. Mm-hmm. But Aaron, you have got something that you and I have been talking about since the eclipse that really can't just be explained away. What do you got, brother?
Yeah, I've got several different things. So I jokingly said we should probably call this episode the Eclipse Apology Tour 2024 because none of the crap that we talked about actually happened.
Nothing happened.
So starting out Thursday 4/4, right before the eclipse, the Statue of Liberty was actually struck by lightning.
Yeah, I saw that.
People freaked out and saw it as a very bad omen going into Eclipse Day. As it turns out, though, Lady Liberty is actually hit about 600 times a year.
Wow.
With lightning. And actually, oddly enough, she was actually built to withstand crazy weather events, and her torch actually can move 5 inches in either direction with no damage.
So she's resilient to the wind.
She is very.
Well, I mean, look, she's nothing but a giant conductor, right,
Oh,
Steve?
yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Well, she just does her exercises and keeps flexible, and that's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's made out of copper, so yeah.
What do you think's going to happen in the middle of a lightning storm?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be drawn to her. So knowing that millions and millions of people were going to be looking skyward for the eclipse, the director of NASA actually came out a few days beforehand and asked that any public that happens to capture any UAP footage, please get in touch with NASA because they were actually wanting to gather data and evidence from the public for their new UAP task force.
So it's kind of like, I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but just in case it does,
right.
have your cameras ready.
Here's the deal. So let's take a look at that. As someone who, let's theorize that they know. They know for a certainty. And they're sitting around and they're like, okay, we've had a lot of activity. A lot of our friends have been buzzing in and out lately. How do we go about this when we know everybody's going to be looking up? Everyone in the world is finally, or at least in this region of the world, is going to be looking up at the sky So if we come forward and say, hey, we got a task force, buddy, and we would love your footage, you're helping the cause.
Right.
Is that kind of a deniable thing where they could sit there and say, well, we didn't know. We got a task force looking into it, and America's helping.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's just kind of strange for me.
It's like we know it's out there, but John Q. Public, if you see something, you say something.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, whatever, NASA. But that takes us to an event that happened in Arlington City, Texas. And this was kind of wild, this video, which is just a screenshot photo that Grant's going to throw in there. But so I grabbed up a bunch of photos to visually dazzle everyone. Anyway, this one's really super sketchy because it's a cigar-shaped UFO that was actually captured by, I saw 4 different people that captured this thing from 4 different angles, from 4 different places in the crowd, where you can kind of hear the other guy over here going, what the F?
Yeah, what is that?
And it's not the guy that says what the F on his video. So that's kind of the litmus test for me for the authenticity of videos. Like if it's one video from one person, you're like, CGI, who knows?
Like that big
camera.
portal opening above that city, right?
Yeah,
Right.
That we were all like, only one guy.
Yeah. One
filmed
guy
this,
got the
really.
portal. Yeah. So in something like this, though, where there's like 4 different independent videos that they all put out there, you're like, okay, this seems a little more plausible at that point. But this thing's super creepy because you can see it speeding through clouds and then it disappears behind a thick bank of clouds. And all of the people were like, did you see that? What the hell was it?
Yeah.
Like
the crowd reacts.
The crowd reacts. And I mean, we're talking lots of people. It's not like a group. It's not like the 4 of us going and sitting in a field. It was a bunch of people. Just really, really bizarro. Then the weirdness surrounding the live stream of the eclipse that they were televising in Dallas, Texas. So in this one, they're live streaming it for folks that like couldn't get out to see the actual eclipse, which watching an eclipse on TV is not like being outside and seeing it.
Yeah,
but, if you
good.
can't get out, that's cool, whatever. But this one, all of a sudden, there's like this partial streak of sun that shows up in the moon, like in the upper quarter of the moon. And a lot of people had said, that they had kind of theorized that it was just a glitch in the live stream because then the live stream went down. But then there were all these other people that were like, no, man, that's the anomalous part of the moon that's missing. It's like the windshield of the spaceship. And so you can see the sun through it. That's why they cut the live stream because they realized like, oh, crap, we're picking up stuff we don't want people to see.
Right.
So I don't know. Do with that one what you want.
Looking at that one, it looks to me like, yeah, it's an MPEG glitch, little chunk of missing data in the stream.
Right, but if you look at it, it also does kind of look like a weird little like, this is how we know where we're going.
Right? Yeah, exactly, yeah.
This is how we fly the moon.
Yes.
Because it's hollow and
Yeah,
full of
I mean,
aliens.
if there was a windshield in the moon, that's where it would be.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to read what you guys have to say. And then the wacky shadow effects that happen when there's an eclipse. And
those are just beautiful.
beautiful, but like matrixy. If you've never witnessed them in real life, it's bizarre. And the way that those shadows appear in almost in the totality areas, almost in perfect circles. And then in other partial areas where it's just like half, but it's caused by the effect of the sunlight, the eclipse light coming through the leaves of a tree, and it actually acts like a pinhole lens almost, where you just pop the thing and you can watch the eclipse on the ground, which again, just get the glasses.
Right. Yeah, I saw somebody had like a kitchen utensil, like a strainer, like a slotted spoon with all little holes in it.
Yeah.
And normally if you hold that and you see the shadow, it's just a bunch of little round lights.
Right.
But during the partial eclipse, they're all little crescent moon shapes.
Yeah.
It is almost freaky. It almost looks unreal.
It's super freaky. And then those shadows, like when they hit rocks and stuff, cast other like shadows in a bunch of directions, and it's very unsettling actually. But it's explainable scientifically, but when you see it, you're like,
what is that? Yeah.
I don't feel so good.
Isn't that amazing how the human mind, like us, and this is probably like a DNA survival mechanism, we can tell in a way that something in nature is off. And again, this is probably something that comes from that survival instinct deep within our primal mind, where we're like, okay, something somewhere could be dangerous, and we all need to kind of be aware here. Because whenever I approach these types of situations, you know, you're looking at some people who have phobias for no reason whatsoever. You can't figure out why. Sure. I think it's got something to do with something that happened to your ancestors a long time ago, and your DNA can remember that stuff. And science is starting to prove that that can happen. So I think there's something within all of us that if there is something off in nature itself, there's a warning system that tells you this is eerie. And then that sixth sense. What is the sixth sense? If you've ever had the hair on the back of your neck stand up, that's the sixth sense. That's the sense that we all ignore, but it is truly there. Something is off, and you're not totally sure what it is, but mechanisms within your body are picking it up. And so I think like that is just one of the most fascinating things. You see these weird shadows and you're like, that's not supposed to be that way. Right. And that sixth sense kicks in and it becomes eerie.
You're like, this is where the Aztecs kill people, run! So that one was super creepy. This one was really kind of bizarre. And I watched this several times. And it's a clip from Florida. And there's all these UFO-shaped, oddly, somewhat evenly spaced out clouds that were captured over the ocean. And the odd thing about this one, though, is like how many of them there are, how spaced out they are, and how identical looking they are. And they're just dotted throughout the sky. And I mean, they're just, and for like as far as you can see. And it's not like there's clouds. It's just the, you know, whatever they call those lenticular cloud kind of things. But it's just really, really odd looking.
I would love to hear from like a meteorologist on like an explanation for something like that, because I've seen something similar to that in the past. Not as many.
That's the thing.
But like two, maybe three at the most, clouds looking just too identical, too evenly spaced, where you're like
a NASA cut and paste job.
Yeah, where you're sitting there going, whoever's doing the programming from the satellite up there,
getting lazy.
You guys are getting a little lazy, you know. They're just like, all right, I really want to get home and watch that new TV show. I'm just gonna cut and paste.
Yeah, who's gonna notice if I put the same cloud over here just for today?
Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. I'm out.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
That one though, it was just because, and they pan the sky in it. If you go, you can find it anywhere, probably on YouTube, but they pan the sky and they're just everywhere. They're not doing anything necessarily. It's not like it's, you know, they're moving around or anything, but it's just weird looking, like literally polka dotted throughout the sky. Then we go back a couple of days to 4/2/24. And if you pay attention, there's a lot of weird number things happening. You know, 4/8/24 is the eclipse. We had stuff on 4/4/24 with the Statue of Liberty. Now we go back to 4/2/24 at 1:2:34 a.m., which is weird, in Nashville, Tennessee. And this group of folks was looking at the moon through a telescope. They're just out there checking it out because they want to kind of see the moon, you know, in its glory before the eclipse happens. And they capture the moon kicking off this gigantic electrical.
It's like a blast.
It's like a ginormous lightning bolt that just kind of keeps going for a second.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. You really should go look that up.
Steve's looking at it now. Yeah, Steve, what do you think? You know a lot about that kind of stuff.
That's totally baffling to me. I want to see the video of it. The still frame, only gives you so much.
I'll show you the video.
But nothing springs to mind for a logical explanation for that one. It's
So they were saying that there were theories out there that due to the CMEs coming off of the sun, because we're at the peak of the 11-year cycle, the moon's position and proximity to the Earth and the pending eclipse, that the magnetosphere was actually pulling off a cloud of tiny dust particles that were then ignited due to, I guess, electro charges in the magnetosphere that made that light come off the moon. Others say that it was the thrusters being kicked on.
Well, yes. Get the moon to where it's got to be.
Yeah. Well, they got the windshield there, so now they're like, hey, dude,
yeah, and this is on the opposite side. This is the windshield's on the other side.
Right.
Yeah, so
Ted,
they're like, oh, man, we're behind schedule.
If this eclipse doesn't kick off at the right goddamn moment, these conspiracy theorists are going to go apeshit.
Somebody in there was like, oh, is that tomorrow?
Hit the thrusters.
Floor it.
Don't think, just do.
This ship does not move that fast. Let's go.
It's amazing to think that like there's this team of aliens sipping on coffee, just bored as hell, watching over Earth, right? Think about that. Yeah. Like there's some theories out there about that satellite that we talked about before. But these aliens just sitting there, their job is to watch us 9 to 5. Right. Just sipping on coffee, and all of a sudden some guy's playing, what's that not Minecraft, but the other game where you're
Minesweeper?
Minesweeper, yeah. And all of a sudden he's like, oh shit, the time. Fired up. Let's go.
I don't care who sees it. We got to go.
If I get a call from Mars, we're all in the shit house. So let's get going.
Then there were others that said that it was actually a nuclear blast from the power generator inside the moon. Okay. So again, what are your thoughts? What do you like? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Because we're going to go back and actually do some shows based on some comments, I think. And then we're saving the best for last. Okay, check this one out. This one, I saw it from one source. I haven't seen it from anywhere else, so that always makes me a little apprehensive. Mm-hmm. But in this photo, you can clearly see a UFO hovering above the partially eclipsed sun. I don't have any idea of scale on this one, though. I mean, I don't know how close to the camera it was, how close to the sun it may have been. But if you look at this thing, it looks like a humongous spaceship, almost like out of the Solar Warden episode.
Yeah, it totally does.
Me.
Yeah.
And it's just hanging out, like front row seats for the eclipse. And I'm like, that is so bizarre. I don't know. I mean, it's undeniable UFO or spaceship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a natural thing. And even if that was something natural, how the hell is something that large, and especially where it's at, not on everyone's topic list?
Right. And it's not the Devil Comet.
No.
It's not. It's just hanging out.
Yeah, I'd like to see the video of that one too, because its motion might give some more clues as to what could be going on there.
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't have a sense of scale. It looks like it could be something huge, but it could also be something small near the camera.
Close.
Yeah,
right.
Closer to the camera than we think.
But the one thing I did check out was I looked at a lot of photos of like other people taking photos of the eclipse and what like dust or dirt on their lens will do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that shape.
No, this doesn't look like that.
This is definitely an object of some sort, either. And when it comes to like paint or like someone photoshopping this kind of effect in there, I'm with Steve on this one. I want to see the video,
right?
Because that could give it away if this is something fake, or like that video that you were talking about in the first part where people were catching it all over the place.
Right.
That thing, man, if that's faked, that is the greatest fake UFO video I have ever seen.
It's fake from a bunch of different angles.
Yeah.
I mean,
it goes in and out of clouds.
Yes.
I mean, this object, and that wasn't like a small thing.
No.
That object is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
It's sketchy. That one was sketchy.
Yeah, that one I also have no guesses as to what.
And it's cigar-shaped.
Yeah, any sort of logical explanation of that.
Yep.
You got nothing.
Now, anything else happen that day?
Well, so the last thing that I had was check. So the moon always faces us with one side, right? Mm-hmm. And they theorize that it's the only moon in the universe that does that, that's locked in like that. one, and two, that's perfectly positioned from the Earth to even cause an eclipse. That does not happen anywhere else. So clearly spaceship. But it's always the same side is always pointed toward us. So during an eclipse, the moon comes between the Earth and the sun. So the back side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, is now fully illuminated, right? The side that never gets sun except for once every maybe 4 years, maybe 7. So on the dark side of the moon, do you think that maybe, one, we don't have any photos of it? Like NASA's never been like, hey, let's get a good clear shot of the backside of the moon with full illumination because, well, we don't want to see the alien cities out there. We can't divulge that. But also, do you think like the aliens have like a reverse eclipse party? Like they're like, sunlight,
stepping out with their shades on, just like soak it in, Terry, soak it in,
man. It's once every couple years, man. So like they're like having this big rager up there.
There's that one guy in the corner. He can't get his lawn chair to open right. What the fuck? This only lasts for a couple minutes. We gotta keep moving.
Right.
The dude who's been day drinking since the start and is already on everybody's nerves.
Well, at least you wouldn't have to worry about the weather there, because I mean you're gonna get the sun.
Right? Yeah, it's there no matter what.
Yeah. But I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So the dark side gets all the light. The light side gets no light. Oh, they're totally having a party.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, I'm not sure if I completely understand it, but I think the dark side of the moon is the dark side because it's dark from our perspective. Like we don't see it.
Right.
But isn't like every new moon, isn't that the backside of the moon being lit up? Every time there's a new moon, it's black to us.
Yes.
And this was a new moon during this eclipse too.
Correct. So they got double the sun.
Yeah.
So that was really probably cause for party.
So
I mean, any reason for the aliens to go drinking? Really? I mean, that's what
you guys know how they are. I mean,
what else they get?
Those guys are day drinking on Christmas. They don't need an excuse. They can find 10,000 excuses to drink from here to the door. We know how they are. Them Grays.
Oh.
So okay, let's address a couple things. Number one, we had a show called Solar Warden where we looked at the Solar Warden theory quite a while ago. This cigar-shaped craft that was caught from a couple different perspectives on video is very much in that realm of what we were talking about on that show as one of the 8 motherships that the United States and their allies could actually have up there cruising around checking things out. And that was the first thing that I thought. Everyone had become so paranoid and so excited about this eclipse. I mean, some places were ready to fire up the National Guard. Schools were let out. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's... And I don't want to poo-poo anybody's belief, but getting excited like that over a pretty typical solar event.
Well, I think that's what kicked it all off, though, was, okay, so 2017, it happened, and we happened to be in the path of totality, and it was on my birthday. Thank you.
It was fantastic. I loved it.
Thanks, aliens.
Yeah, thanks, aliens. Thanks for flying your spaceship into the... and then we had one in 2023. Both of those, I've asked tons of people, I'm like, do you remember how scared people were? And they're like, no. I'm like, right. But this one,
why were
National
they so
Guard,
excited?
kick off hazmat teams. Well, and like news stories, like have 2 or 3 days worth of food. Make sure you fill up your gas. But a lot of that was because in those areas of totality, I mean, you had towns of 50,000 people turning into 500,000.
Yeah.
And that was more what they were going for is, hey, be prepared because we're not used to having this amount of people here.
Yep.
But with that, there is still some whacked out shit going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And too many people, especially kind of like religious extremists, will grab on to an event like this, and we've done it since the dawn of man. This isn't celestial. This is spiritual. This is God or the gods doing something, obviously. We've always done that as a species. It's just what we do.
Right.
And we still continue to do it. I just don't like the fear that they perpetuate upon the populace. Be afraid, be afraid. What I don't mind, like the emergency management stuff that you were talking about just right before. Because, yeah, we know how fast travelers can kind of come through the area, and it's welcomed. Please do. That's why the area's here, so everyone can enjoy it. But man, it's like locusts. You know, you get enough people coming through your town, all of a sudden you don't have gas to go to work. You go to the store for eggs, there ain't no eggs. You go to the store for toilet paper, there ain't no toilet paper. Like, it's kind of crazy. So yes, when you get a mass amount of individuals who come into your area and your stores and your infrastructure isn't really used to that, send out the warning. Let people know. Because there's an event that will be taking place here in Wyoming this summer. And we will have, according to their projections, we will have the busiest Walmart on the face of the planet for 7 days. Will be in Wyoming. And that's crazy. It's crazy to think, right? Well, we're not used to that. So the emergency management coordinators in the counties have come together and they're like, everyone who lives here, just be ready to not go out. It's just smarter. You know, this is a very welcomed event. They're going to be bringing in a lot of money for the industries, you know, tourism and things like that, recreation. It's very welcomed, but our populace needs to be ready for this. Fuel up your gas tank. Make sure you got enough food for a week so you don't have to go out. It's going to get kind of crazy. That I'm totally cool with. But once you start telling people, you know, it's the doom of the world and they're coming to get you, oh, get over yourself. Yeah. How many times we told each other that just for us to wake up next morning and be like, shit, I'm going to work today. You know? Like, what's it? Yeah. No burning. All right.
Oh, I shouldn't have drank that whole bottle of vodka.
I knew I'd regret that.
Knew I'd have to go out.
Yeah, and some of those things were... You had to be a little, take some liberties, like the Nineveh thing. I mean, passing through, depending on how broad your definition is of passing through, it went through 7 Ninevehs. It really only went through 2. It went near others. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff, you fudge a few things here, you fudge a few things there, and pretty soon the picture starts looking really clear, even though it's not.
And unfortunately, we all got to bring that down to whoever wants the narrative. Who's controlling the narrative?
Right.
And if you can find who's controlling the narrative, now find their motivation. What is making you want to control that narrative? And you do that, man, and you can pretty much get behind, them and see what's behind the curtain and what they're trying to hide, or what their true intentions are. Now, when it comes to that cigar-shaped object, though, all of this is happening. What if Project Solar Warning, which actually had another name. Do you remember it? I can't.
Bluebeam.
No. Bluebeam was them trying to fake an alien attack.
It was a cooler name, too.
Something radiant.
Yeah.
Radiant something.
Yeah, it was. Guardian, Radiant Guardian, something like that.
I think it actually was. I think it was Radiant Guardian. Yeah. Anyway, so this project actually is a big theory out there that we had a show on. We talked about quite extensively. That... during the Reagan administration, he gave authorization to basically make a series of very large spacecraft that would travel through our solar system and keep us safe from any outside attacks that may or may not come. If we had an event this large and we were that concerned about people maybe doing some nefarious things, what if they were like, look, Captain, Colonel, Admiral, whoever's in charge of that ship, just park close. Just be close. We never know what's going to happen. Or what if there is an outside influence that does want to take advantage of this type of situation that the operators of Radiant Garden know about? And they're like, just be there in case the Zoop Slops show up and they try to do this at the solar, during the eclipse.
Yeah.
Right. Just be here at this time. So what I'm saying is it's one of those things where we look up to the sky and we see these things and we're like, aliens. I don't do that anymore. I look up to the sky and I see these things or these videos. I haven't seen one myself. And I think, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Because now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think, yes, there's been, in my opinion, alien influence. from outside. But I think now it's mostly us that we're seeing here and there. I really do think that we may have a better handle on this situation than people think. You know, when those three gentlemen testified at Congress about the things that they couldn't explain, there are things going on that the majority don't understand, but I think there is a minority somewhere who's like, man, those guys have been parked outside of there for 700 years.
Right.
And we've only now recently started to see them. Our pilots have reported them for 25 years. They don't seem to be hurting anybody. We know they come from this area. We know that they're non-threatening, and we know that they're actually just taking atmospheric readings.
Right.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come forward and say, that's an atmospheric device from this species that lives in this area of the galaxy. They're just here studying some superfluous crap that nobody really cares about. But you're not going to say that.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean? You're just going to be, well, don't know what it is.
Oh, and that's the same premise. Like, well, hey, if you see anything, let us know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I really do feel like they're, and I'm not talking like a secret organization. Like the whole Illuminati thing, I'm not sure if I buy it. I don't
Oh, yeah.
buy
There's
this.
like 10 or 12 guys.
Yeah.
Who are like, yeah.
Come
this
on.
is what we're doing.
Yeah. Now, I do buy that there are certain individuals within the government that know not everything, but everything about one thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So they'll come together every now and then, and maybe that was set up pretty early on where they're like, we'll never have one of us that knows all of it
The smoking man from the X-Files.
for our own safety.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Aaron, you're in charge of propulsion. All of it. Steve, you're in charge of the diplomatic process that we have got to take with these guys. All of it. And I'm handling propaganda. Now, this is what we do. You never tell me everything. I never tell you everything. We can come together once a year and go, that was me.
Right.
That was you? Okay, that was you. Was that you? All right, that was you. Everybody get their funding? Right on. See you next year. That's how I would run that. So that if, God forbid, anything were to happen to any of us or someone were to get a hold of any of us, they never learn everything.
Yeah, they don't get the whole moon spaceship. I'm in charge of the blue beam you saw coming out of that sucker.
Absolutely.
Steve's in charge of the windshield.
Yeah, I keep the windshield clean.
It's just a way to keep it more secure. And let's say you have like some horrible shock of conscience where you're like, I'm telling everybody everything. Well, you don't know everything.
Yeah, you can't.
So now I can step in as a propagandist and be like, no, he's just mad at us. And he's talking trash. And then I literally use all of my media outlets to handle that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's probably more of what's going on. Even the people up on that ship don't know everything. I think if they're a member, you wouldn't want to lose that. It's not like you're up there mopping the floor of one of these spaceships going, boy, I really do feel like I should be the one to blow the whistle on this.
Right? Yeah, you get a pretty sweet gig.
You got the best job in the universe.
Yeah.
Why would you say anything?
Yep.
I
It's just
wouldn't.
all classified.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, sure. I'd mop my floor with a smile on my face, man. Goddamn right. By the way, you're never going back to Earth. Don't care.
All right.
Don't care.
Do I have to pay taxes?
Yeah. It sucks down there anyway.
I mean, really, at that point, if you could provide me with food, shelter, I'm good. You don't even have to pay me. What am I going to do with it anyway? It's not like you're going to go to the mall. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the PX. You go,
devote.
go buy your Xbox. The Wi-Fi up here really sucks.
Imagine their forms of entertainment. Imagine that. Like, just take a second to imagine what kind of entertainment they would have. And if you were honestly behind all of this, I'd provide you with everything. Everything.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't need a goddamn thing. Ever.
Oh.
Because I know you've dedicated your life forever to do this. And that's awesome. And you'll retire on the base on Mars.
Right.
No one will ever know your name.
The senior community.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that there's probably like a Margaritaville out there.
I was going to say, where's the Florida of Mars?
Yeah, right.
You know, they're looking at it. They're like, yo, is Jimmy Buffett even still alive? Play that song again. But you got to think about it, because there are dedicated individuals who serve as, like, you know, the United States Service Special Forces, who do brave, amazing, just things that would blow your mind every day. And you never, ever will know about it.
But, and thank God for things like X and YouTube and whatever. Without those, nobody would know about any of these stories.
Yeah.
Like, why is there no major news organization, because they won't, that comes out and they're like, okay, I just want to show you this montage of 5 whacked out videos that happened during the eclipse.
Do you remember Strange Universe? There used to be.
Oh, yeah.
What a great show that was, man. I watched that show faithfully. I do not know why they took that off, but that's what it was. It was kind of like a hard copy, 60 minutes. They tried to take themselves as seriously as possible, but they were covering some pretty outrageous stuff. That's the first place I saw HARP.
Yeah.
Strange Universe. They took that stuff seriously. This is the first place I saw Cold Fusion. That a man came forward and said cold fusion's been invented and suppressed by your government. I remember they took themselves very seriously, because what if this is real?
Well,
Stuff like that happens.
with everybody with their phones and cameras now. It's like, you can't hide that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody has it, and everybody. You watch, some of those places, and I was just kind of laughing, because some of them, like in Ohio or whatever, where they hold like big NASCAR things or whatever, it holds 120,000 people, and it's full. And I'm like, I don't want to be with 120,000 people to see the eclipse, because what if shit does kick off? I really don't want to be there. But all the people, they're filming it, like everybody. So you have a major event like the one the cigar-shaped one that was flying through the clouds. You're getting it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just happenstance. Somebody somewhere is going to pick something up, and you're going to be like, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. But at the same time, due to the nature of these things, there's a lot more anomalies that are just glitches in the system that get picked up. So you're getting a lot of more information, but you're also getting a lot of extra useless information too.
Right.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be noise, right? Like that's probably one of the hardest things to do as, a conspiracy theorist, when we're either pouring through your reels or looking through your TikToks or whatever, and you're like, okay, is that real? Should we talk about this? Should we address that? There's this great video of the plane and out the window, and all of a sudden this UFO just skims by. You and I, we've talked about this video before. It is absolutely convincing. Like, when you look at that, and some people have even slowed this down, and when that craft comes close to that window, you're like, God damn, man. That's hard not to say that that's real.
Right.
But we don't know for sure. And I don't want to start spewing out, like, it's just an ethical thing for me. I would love to sit here and be able to talk about every single little video that we see, because there's a lot of them. Man, there's a lot of them. But I've got to be really critical about it.
Yeah, you do the test like what Aaron does. Like, if that was a passenger plane, then presumably a lot of people on that plane would have seen that.
Yeah.
And where are they? And are they just, not coming forward? Or
why are
what's
they not
going on
talking
there?
about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that always got me was like when we covered that incident at the mall, and people were coming forward, and people were still saying, nah, it's just, what were they saying? They were like,
it was a shadow of the police lights.
Shadow of police lights. That's what it was. It was, but people were saying, no, man, portals were opening.
Yeah.
Aliens or these beings, whatever the hell they were stepping out. It wasn't just a group of kids. This really happened.
I think part of that started in the 40s, where they're like, don't talk about this. You'll be labeled as a wacko. So there's still that generation. And it trickled down to the kids, kind of. That was what they were trying to do, is control that narrative of going, if you talk about this, you're a tinfoil hat wearing wacko. So some of those are phasing out, and now we've got new people that are coming in going, no, man, I'll talk about this. I don't mind. But I think that's where that comes from. I could see the same thing as, let's say, my dad. And I'm like, oh, that's this anomalous thing. And he's like, no, it wasn't.
Me with ghosts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you with ghosts.
Yep.
Where
To which when Emmy comes back,
we're gonna do that
wants
ghost
to do the
show.
ghost episode, I have footage from me of some ghostly crap that's a little creepy.
Nice.
So
Well, and
I'm gonna lock Floyd in the warehouse by himself.
He's already he's already explaining it away, and he hasn't even seen it yet.
yeah, I heard the knocking. I heard that, and that's weird. But someone somewhere was, could have been messing with you, because here's my deal. I know certain people like or really believe in ghosts.
Sure.
And if I was horrible enough, you could set,
Which he almost is.
you could set something up that could be pretty good. You know what I mean? And like your video, it could have been someone who's like, Aaron is really into this stuff, and he's on that Jackalope show.
And he's in the middle of freaking nowhere, and there were no people
By
around.
himself.
I don't know, man.
I'm gonna mess with it, Yeah, and I'm not saying that's what happened, and I'm not saying that's not what happened. I can't explain where that came from, and you did a thorough investigation. You can't explain where it came from either. That's odd. Absolutely, I would agree with you on that. Would I say it's
But the only problem, like I was there, I did it, or it did it, and I just happened to film it. But if I were watching that from someone else, I'd be highly critical, going, "Well, that's one video."
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like I know what was. That's why that's UFO flying through the clouds from 4 different angles, 4 different people,
And everybody in the crowd,
And
like, what the
everybody
hell is that?
reacting.
Yeah.
That to me is kind of like the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, man, you actually recorded something. That's definitive.
And the mounting amount of evidence that not only are aliens real, but that they're here and here a lot is just getting unbelievable. Like, you want to sit someone down almost and say, what else? Like, did they have to walk up, slap you across the face, and be like, we're not from around these parts? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of evidence, man.
The thing for me about these eclipse things is that my mind has a hard time accepting is we've got the cigar-shaped thing, we've got the saucer-shaped thing. How many things were here all at once? I could believe, like, if we saw the cigar-shaped thing in Texas and then again further up north as the thing progressed. But if you look at, like, where the eclipse is actually happening on a celestial scale, and it's a fairly localized thing on the planet.
Yeah, pretty tiny, right?
Yeah, so it's just a small little shadow that moves across, and it moves fairly rapidly across. So were these things all concentrated right in that little area? Are they everywhere and we're just not seeing because we're not paying attention to it?
I think they're everywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, my mind has a hard time coming to terms with that. I could accept them seeing the saucer here and again here and again here because, like, okay, the saucer's here. But there's like 4 or 5 different things all at once. That's harder for me to accept.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And here, I often think about, like, what if it's just a bunch of anthropologists,
Right.
alien anthropologists who were like, okay, so this big event's going to happen on Earth, and all these little creatures that we've been studying for years, they tend to gather around and really do a lot of crazy shit during this time.
This is the time to catch them.
Let's go check them out and see what they're culturally doing.
Yeah, get the
and,
show.
Like, think about that. If we could do that, we would. We're a spacefaring society. We're able to go jump around. Okay, Star Trek. Okay?
Right.
You study planets with underdeveloped civilizations, and you do it in a way that is non-invasive and to your best.
Right.
Okay? Like, that's their whole thing, right? Like the prime directive. You do not interfere with their development. So who's to say that's not what's really happening? We were talking about, what'd you call it? The Devil's Satellite? It's got a certain
Devil's
name.
Comet.
The Devil's Comet.
Yeah.
Or what is that big...
Oh, the Black Knight satellite.
The Black Knight satellite.
Yes.
Okay, so something that we honestly like real people, like big time scientists are like, what if that's AI from somewhere else? Right. And what if it's, and we explored during that other show, we explored the idea that that's our babysitter. What if it really is? That's a satellite that they left here to keep an eye on us. And it's gathering information all the time. And we just don't know it because we don't understand it. It's nothing like our technology. I mean, with the discoveries that are made on the scales that they're being made nowadays, we're starting to understand that spectrums are so much wider than we thought. Space is so much wider than we thought. This dimension is only one of how many. And it's just, when I die, I don't want to face this ultimate God. Okay, what I want, my heaven would be knowledge.
All the answers of the universe.
My heaven would be understanding how big it all really is. And I'm not talking just space and time. I'm talking beyond that. I'm talking about the things that we have yet to even conceive in fantasy or sci-fi, things that we don't even know to understand.
No.
When you're walking past an earthworm, that earthworm is not going, there's a human. No, you're just another thing.
Right.
It's not smart enough to understand that you're even smart. You're just a thing. We're not smart enough to understand that that's even smart.
Right.
It's just a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want my heaven to be. To understand how big is it really.
Right.
Man, and I'll bet it would just blow me up again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, holy cow, wow.
Yeah, you couldn't even handle it.
Yep. You'd explode and it'd all be over, but what a way to go.
We are suffering from Dunning-Kruger. We're so dumb, we don't even know how dumb we are. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, one of the last things I wanted to mention is this is just kind of weird in the fact that since the time that we put the ISS, International Space Station, into space, there have been 24 eclipses. They haven't filmed one of them.
I saw some footage of this one where you can see the shadow going across the earth. Yeah.
And that's what they do. Like, I was going to ask, what would they film?
Yeah, it's a dark,
just the
it's
shadow.
a dark spot moving. It looks like like the size of a hurricane, just kind of but black moving across the.
Okay.
Yeah, NASA had
I
a
want
live
to see
stream
that
of that.
because I read something and I'm like, yeah, why have they not ever filmed one of these before? Maybe it was because it wasn't
Just didn't line up right, maybe.
right.
But
I don't know.
Well,
It's
and my
weird.
thing is, like, visit the NASA web pages. They're amazing. Like, there are discoveries that those guys are doing and making that are never put out in the news.
There's so much of it that
Holy
you
cow.
couldn't. Like the James Webb is going crazy.
Yeah, man, and it's just you could that's a jackalope hole right there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you get on that webpage and you start seeing the amazing things that our scientists can actually do now and see, and all of a sudden you'll be like, holy cow, that was 4 hours ago. You know what I mean? But it's impressive and it's amazing. And I'm just saying, like Steve said, well, I have seen some footage. Okay, well, there's probably a lot more out there that we don't hear about because now all of a sudden space, isn't as interesting as it was in the 60s.
Right.
You know, we got up there, we learned that the moon wasn't made of cheese. We're not going.
And there were no women up there. So there was no reason to go back.
There's no reason.
They took the car to cruise around and couldn't pick up any chicks, and so
although they're going to build a train up there. Have you heard that?
That's another episode, probably.
That's another why. What I want to know is why.
Yeah.
Why are you spending all this money? They're starving children, by the way.
Right.
Why are we spending this money on that? You know what I mean? Just saying. Just wanted to throw that out. Aaron, anything else?
No, just worst apocalypse ever, probably. But in the same vein, there was still a lot of great stuff. And anytime, and I've said this before, last time of the day that I take the dogs out to do their thing, I'm always looking skyward. Like anything that can get millions and millions and millions of people looking up and just paying attention to how beautiful it is. Mm-hmm. And if anything wacky is going on, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Steve?
I just kind of echo what Aaron said. I think it's really cool that things like this happen because it does open the doors to new conversations and hopefully little windows open to where you can see little glimpses of things we haven't seen before. And there's a lot out there we don't know, and I think these are opportunities to maybe just get a glimpse of it.
I think we live in a great time when I think as a society we're even becoming more accustomed to just not questioning what's just in the sky, but the basis of our own reality and where we fit in this massive universe. And it's conversations that I love to have, because you start drifting into philosophy more than anything else. Mm-hmm. Like, if we are in a simulation, what does that mean? What does that mean to the nature of existence itself? And those are some of the coolest conversations to have. And if you like what we talk about, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out greatly. And you've been listening to Jackalopes Explore.